All right. Shalom, family.
Shalom.
Everybody good?
Hi, everybody.
Sip my little tea. Get my energy up. It's a little late.
What's in there? What kind of tea is it? Earl Grey?
It's Earl Grey's. Little Earl Grey's action.
Earl Grey.
Him too. Earl Grey. All right.
Yes, I have a straw in my coffee.
All right, family, bless you. Thank you for joining us for the Go Lightly Perspective. I'll be your brother, Dawid. This is my wife, Hokma.
Shalom.
We greet you in peace in the name of our tribal deity, Yod He Wav He, who loved us so much he sent his only begotten son, Yahushua Mashiach, through a patriarchal manner of a son loving his father so much that he sacrificed and gave everything for him. So we are attempting to reproduce that same thing. I have my wife, and we're trying to produce sons that are willing to do that which their father has required. But we understand that a father cannot do that by himself. Am I right or wrong?
You're right.
All right, that's what's up. So, family, we're going to talk to you guys today. But before we do, take a second, please. Thumb up the video. Y'all see it. Thumb up the video. If it's something that's valuable to you, make a comment. Let us know what we're doing right. Maybe some things that we can improve on. You can put it right there in the comments. My skin is not thin. I can take criticism. I can take a critique. So, because we just want to grow and just ensure that you're getting value from what we're doing. That being said, we're going to share a couple things. My wife and I, we were in the whip, we were driving, and we were just having a conversation. And we realized you brought up a thought about some things that were just settled within your spirit that you didn't. Well, you realized where you had gotten certain ideologies, certain philosophies. See, many times we don't know where we got the things that we support, endorse, believe in, fight for, advocate for, reject. We don't know where we got those things until we do the difficult work of going into our subconscious, deliberately pulling back the layers of that onion to get to the core of a thing. And at the core, those things may not be from the Most High. And that sometimes that has an emotional effect upon people. Really, we could act out. We could begin to reject, deny, insult, be repulsed by things because we were never really taught the ways of the Most High. So the reason why we're sharing is that we believe, I am fully persuaded that there is no way that is superior to the way of Yah, the way of Torah. All the law of Yah is perfect, converting the soul. The testimony of Yah is sure, making wise the simple. So that's what we're talking about today. So go ahead and just share maybe something that you realize that had been given to you consciously or subconsciously that you had to really question and say, nah, baby, from what you've been teaching me, that's not in the text.
Well, first I want to say, you mentioned that the things that, we kind of follow or use as guides aren't necessarily or not typically from the Most High. And it's because it comes from a self-righteous perspective.
Okay.
And the self-righteous are not concerned with the Most High. They have a different set of standards that kind of govern themselves, that are kind of like this normalized deviance.
Okay.
That has kind of been developed. And then it's a group thing. Everybody around is into it, so it's okay.
It's okay.
Right. So one of the things I believe it may have been said, and may not have been said to me, but I had definitely heard it a lot, especially in the context of, someone having children or, what somebody may think is too many children. You don't need any more than 2.
Right.
If you get a boy and a girl,
you're done.
You're done. That's it. That's it. There are women, who wanted to have their tubes tied and do all kinds of things to kind of like really make this permanent decision to, stop that which is natural.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a stigma that was kind of assigned to people with larger families, like they need to get a hobby, they need something else to do, they can't afford all those children, all these things that, kind of made it negative.
Right. And that's a good point, because when let's say you do value larger families, like they've been very intentional in shaming people. Mm-hmm. They shame you. They insult you for wanting to do what Torah said that you should do, that you should be fruitful. You should multiply. You should replenish the earth. That's what we're trying to do. We believe that our men, the men that we connect with, righteous men, are a certain caliber, a certain mindset, and that there needs to be as many of them on the earth as there can be, so that the Father can use this group versus just have 2. And then the shaming that comes about if you have more than that, because, there's this lie that the world is overpopulated.
Well, I think the shaming also comes because a lot of the women who kept having children were having with different men. So it's like this whoredom is running rampant. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, in a sense, yes, but then it kind of spreads to other scenarios as well, where you may be married and, with your husband, and it's still too many.
Right.
But, too many baby daddies should be the thing. Like, you don't need any more than that,
Right.
But
And that's become the norm, where it's not abnormal for many of our people to have 2, 3, 4 baby daddies, and they have 4 children, 4 different baby daddies. Like, I know it. I've seen it firsthand, but that's not a jab at them. It's just, we have to question what in society made that okay, because we're only one generation. Understand? Maybe 2. Because our grandparents and great-grandparents, they had huge families. Mm-hmm. Like, they had 10 children, 12 helpful. Children. They were what?
Helpful.
What do you mean?
The children.
In what way?
They helped to, keep the land going, the crops. Yes. They had to land. The elderly. They helped around the house. They had chores. Mm-hmm. That was necessary. A man without that, it's death.
Right.
To the whole family without having those resources and the children.
Right. And children are wealth according to Torah. Mm-hmm. So I'm not finna like splinter the conversation to go there, because we're still dealing with things that were told to us or that we learned as children. You want to write it down? Because I know you'll lose it. You'll lose it. Go ahead and say it. Say it. Come on, go on and say it.
So, the baby daddy thing.
Okay.
So it was also an issue if there was a man who had children, and I'm thinking like Nick Cannon right now. Mm-hmm. Nick Cannon got a few baby mothers. May not be for some people, but as long as these children are being taken care of, and, he's a good example of a provider and a father, then why is it anybody's business? And if that had been the case, if I had really listened to that, would we be sitting here?
Probably not.
We would not be. Mm-hmm. So part of it for me was being, I was not in a home where both of my parents were present. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't so much as, the divorce, which was another thing that I was taught without being told that it was okay. Mm-hmm. But, if something doesn't work out, just leave. But had my father been out of the home and still very active, I would have had less trauma.
Say that one more time.
Had my father been out of the home like he was, he didn't, from me being very young, lived in a different place, mm-hmm. the trauma wouldn't have been as great. He still would have been a big influence, but that wasn't really the case. But, not judging him or his decisions or anything like that, but whatever the case, that is what it is.
and see, like the court system, society makes it so easy to just walk away because you're not happy. Like these concepts of, these are very like new concepts. These things have infiltrated our people group, our culture, subculture within a generation or two, that you marry for love, that you marry to be happy. And if you're not happy, then you're able to just discard this marriage, this relationship, that you should be in seek and in search of the one. Search for your soulmate. Our grandparents did not even consider these things. So when we consider the origin of these philosophies, have they benefited us? Has divorce gone through the roof? We're at over 70%. The likelihood that people that get married are going to be divorced. So back to your point, where divorce is always an option, where we will have been married 19 years this year. Hallelujah. Yeah, this month, 19 years. And we've gone through some amazing transformations. We were thinking about people that have known us through the years, have seen our transition, have seen us, I don't like to use the word evolve, but, transition into a Torah compliant lifestyle where what we do is just strictly from the text, that people have seen us like them. Like they've seen me, like I was way wilder than what you were. But, I had some wild ways, to now being here is proof positive that the ways of Yah are perfect. So before, like we've been going.
What they say doesn't matter anyway. It's what the Most High says.
It's what he says. So that's why I wanted to anchor this in in Psalms 14, where it says, there's a way that seems right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death and destruction. Absolutely. So we wanted to just pin that scripture, that consider your ways, that you may have a way that you think things should be, but where did that come from? It generally was from a system that seeks to pervert, to corrupt, and to maintain, to pervert and corrupt you, and to maintain the power structure, which keeps us out of power.
And it's usually subtle.
Wow.
It's usually very subtle, so you miss it. And that's how, these things get planted. And, even the divorce being a part of my life very early on, my mom didn't sit up and talk about, we got divorced. It was just, of course, you just know that.
Yeah. But
I was in a family that was matriarchal. For the most part, my grandmother and her sisters, were widows. My aunt, my mother, divorcee. But whatever the case, it was always the man's fault. The women never did anything wrong. They was angelic beings with halos,
right,
floating over their heads and wings popping out of their backs. They didn't do anything wrong to have this situation. So there was also a lack of accountability, because
that's still rampant.
I feel that when things go wrong in that type of a scenario or situation, then everybody needs to do some inward, reflection and really look at, what part did I play in this?
Correct. Be accountable.
Right. So.
Yeah. And, if you have a string of baby daddies and broken relationships, you're in your late 30s, you're in your 40s, and you're in your 50s, and no man has claimed you. You can't find Mr. Right, which is BS anyway. You can't find anybody that can handle you. You can't find anybody that understands you. Maybe nobody wants to handle you. Maybe a man is not going into this trying to tame a tiger.
Right.
That maybe he wants someone that's cooperative, that's friendly, that's kind, that's generous, that's caring, that's concerned about what he's trying to do versus making it all about you. But let me pivot.
It's always
It's always about the woman. It's always, and that's not Torah.
It's not Torah. And even, there are men who have allowed women to be this way, pandering to.
But it's not, I want to say this, that y'all see my wife. She's beautiful.
Thank you.
She don't look abused. She don't look stepped on. You see what I'm saying? Like we don't believe in doing that to women. I don't try to make her be unintelligent, which is impossible. I don't try to dumb her down. So even in, we have to love our people properly, love your wife properly, up until the point to where I'm willing to give my life and sacrifice anything and everything for her, for my children. Because I don't see a two-ness. I see a unity. I see a oneness with us. So I'm not going to cut off my body. I'm not going to cut off my nose to spite my face. I'm not going to amputate my arm when I know that she's my right hand. We don't move and operate like that. But I wanted to give another scripture because we were talking about the concept of children are wealth versus what we've been taught in the society to have 2.5 children. And you ask anybody, how many children should somebody have?
You want a torso or you want the legs? Or you want the left hemisphere?
That 0.5 is just the possible, maybe, or either that 0.5 is a dog. You know what I mean? So, whereas in the scripture, after he told us to be fruitful and multiply, because the benefit of that is you can begin to reproduce yourself, this certain mindset, and then you direct these children as arrows to go out and to perform certain tasks in the earth, to have certain skill sets in the earth so that you don't have to depend on other people for it. You educate, direct your children to do these things. And then that brings resources back to the tribe, brings resources back to the group. Mm-hmm. I want to read this Psalms 127. It says, "Lo, children are an heritage of Yahuwah, and the fruit of the womb is his reward." So think about what you're doing with the fruit of your womb. Mm-hmm. Are you casting it out? Mm-hmm. Are you aborting it? Are you destroying it? Are you corrupting it? Are you molesting it through lies by saying your father ain't ish? Mm-hmm. Your father don't love you? That's child molestation. You're molesting the thoughts and corrupting the mind of the child from being able to properly adjust to that other parent. It's like this. Let me stop. Let me get back to the text because I'll go somewhere else. I'm in Psalms 127 in verse 4 now. It says the fruit. Let me start over and read it without interruption. Mm-hmm. Lo, children are the heritage of Yahuwah, and the fruit of the womb is his reward. As arrows are in the hand of a mighty man, so are children of the youth. Happy is the man that hath his quiver full of them. They shall not be ashamed, but they shall speak with their enemies in the gate. So when you have your quiver full, many children, mm-hmm. ancestrally, our people believe that you are happy, that benefits you if you have a lot of children versus that 1.2 or 2 children.
Well, that was one of the things that made that felt very comfortable to me about your family. Mm-hmm. I had a really small family, so I always wanted a larger one. It was just natural. I just wanted a larger family.
Right.
And, whenever I was around families that were larger, we lived down the street from
the Johnsons.
The Harrisons.
Had
like 13
children. Johnson's always got a bunch of children.
Had 13 children. Mr. Harris was a very firm, stern man. But it was just always, all the children were really happy. They were very helpful, very dutiful. And it was just a great time when they all gathered.
Beautiful.
And that was the thing, when I came to, meet your family and, the children that had been born already. I've seen a lot more come since then.
Yes, yes. More on the way.
Mm-hmm. But I think that just felt natural. It felt good to me. It felt like, oh, wow, this is really what, it's about. So.
And when you see them all running around, playing, happy, joyful, gleeful, obedient, because we believe that children should be obedient. They don't get to make up what they want to do in their lives and go around fighting one another. That's one thing that, because myself and my brothers and my sisters are close, we don't fight each other. Therefore, our children don't fight one another. Like, that's something that's not allowed. It's not accepted. And if it does happen, it's punishment. They won't retaliate. They go tell the parent, and they know that the parent is going to handle it way better than they could have handled it. You see what I'm saying? That's where they turn the other cheek if your brother slap you. And they look at their cousins because they have, the same fathers and the same brothers, uncles. They see them in that same capacity. But somebody outside the tribe, outside of that group, they not turning the other cheek. And I don't teach them to turn the other cheek. That's a mature principle that has been, it just destroys the mindset. I'm not teaching that to my child to turn the other cheek. Get out of here. From your enemy. No.
Don't do that. You might get sucker punched.
Oh, man, please.
The other thing, too, is that my sister and I always had separate everything.
Okay, talk about that.
We were never made to share much of anything.
Mm-hmm.
My mother was the only child. I think that the concept of a sister in her mind was something that she had just kind of like thought how it was going to be, because she didn't really have any. Her and my aunt Marva were really close. It was kind of like her sister. There were two sisters' children. Mm-hmm. But she didn't have a sibling. Mm-hmm. So, and once you get more resources, the next generation, you want to give your children more. So my sister and I had our own rooms. We had our own everything. Mm-hmm. Own hair products, own, nothing that was made to share anything. Mm-hmm. And I see the children that were made to share or had to share for whatever reason. Was it a lack of resources? Was it just, this is all the family can afford? Mm-hmm. They were just naturally closer. They just grew up as friends.
I had to teach you to share. You didn't want to share with me.
That's not true. I still got a little salty. You drank my coffee today. I was like, I could have gotten you one.
Like, no, I wanted some of yours.
I could have gotten you one.
You got to practice this thing. You got to practice.
But yeah, that was another thing. And so, it was always weird. And it was just kind of like we were a little spoiled, I guess. And when I encountered people that shared,
it was foreign
with their sibling or whatever, they still had a great time. They were really close. But I just was like, I got my own room. Yeah. Like, big deal. What is that? Mm-hmm. You don't have that bond that, the friendship that they had growing up. And my sister and I aren't very far apart in age, but that you would think we would have been really, really, like, really close growing up. But I think that kind of was part of why we weren't.
Mm-hmm. That's absolutely possible. And it's good that you were able to recognize that. I want to share something that I was taught as a youth, directly and indirectly, is that violence is the solution to almost everything. You spill some milk, violence is about to happen. You break a glass.
They're frustrated.
That's your ass. when my parents divorced when I was like right there being a teenager, and things got a little bit rougher for my mother. Mm-hmm. So oftentimes violence was a solution. Whereas I learned and I matured that, okay, well, let me say that I have a son that's older. Tiny saw me. I was a parent in my 20s. The way that I react to him as a young father versus the way that I react to my youngest son, like in my 40s, is totally different. I'm more patient. Like, I don't resort to violence and to hitting and to spanking for everything versus.
Did you resort to violence with Haji?
Yeah. You probably said I should have resorted to violence a little bit more. He probably could have got a couple more butt whippers.
Haji's 20.
No, he's 30
He's
now.
30 now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's great.
But he's a good son.
He's great.
Yeah.
But
you're a good son, Bane. I'm proud of you.
You are.
You could have got a couple more.
You could have, but I was always telling you, all you do is tell.
Right.
I was around
since he was 7.
Like 7, yeah.
So yeah, you've been around for quite some time. You've been a staple, and you've seen me transition and develop, hashtag mature masculinity. Mm-hmm. The whole masculinity piece was something that I had to develop. I had to study. I had to constantly improve myself. I had to go within myself to see why was I passive aggressive.
So let me interview you real quick then.
Sure.
So something that you were taught growing up, directly or indirectly, whether you were sat down and, directly told this or not, how do men express, or do they express any type of emotion?
When I would see my father, mm-hmm. it was always this cool sternness. Mm-hmm. I don't remember him flying off the handle a great deal. Not saying that he didn't raise his voice, mm-hmm. but I didn't see him overreact. I can remember, it was my birthday. My birthday, July 31st. And, we was keeping 4th of July, a couple weeks early. And I found a firecracker right on the day of my birthday, the 31st, in the backyard. I don't know if I ever shared this story. Mm-hmm. I shared it. We talked about this before online?
No.
Oh, just you and I. You told. I told you. Lot. Right. So it is real short. So I found a firecracker, and the wick was like this. But me thinking, hey man, I'm fast. Still, I'm fast. Like, trust me, light it and I'm gonna throw it. So it had been raining, so my cousin lit it, and it went. And I'm like, nah, it ain't gonna go. And it just started smoking. I'm like, man, come on. Do like that, and then I see it. I can see it in my eyes. It start going. So I'm like, oh. And by the time I got here, wow, man, it hurt my hand. I thought my hand had burst open. I thought that it was like bloody, but the sound, the echo from the gunfire, it hurt so bad. I was crying, screaming bloody murder. They took me back into the house. My mom was going off. She wanted to beat me. She wanted more violence. Violence is never not on the table. And my father was like, baby, no. Like, he just learned his lesson. Look at him. Like, look at his hand. He just learned the lesson. So, I saw that emotional intelligence there. Or I'm not going to say emotional intelligence.
He was able to keep his head.
To keep his head in that scenario versus just flying off. I'm going to beat you again. So.
And that was probably out of her fear.
That was fear.
You scared her.
Yeah, I scared her.
It was like, don't do that again.
Oh, now don't get me wrong. Like, I have a great mother. Mm-hmm. Like, my mother, I love my matriarch. But, after the divorce, something in her changed. Like, we look at, like, divorce doesn't impact people. It changes people. It impacts the children. She knew that she had 3 boys and 2 daughters. Mm-hmm. And we moved into, like, the rough part of town, and I had to fight. So she had to make sure that she didn't lose me, or she was going to lose the other sons. You follow what I mean? So she was really, really tough on me. And like, even today, like in terms of emotion, you don't show emotion. Like, I used to idolize, want to be like growing up at times, was Dr. Spock. I kid you not. I wanted to be like a Vulcan. I wanted to not show emotion and just be so logical in my presentation. Like, well, you know what? Crying is not going to make it feel better. So there's no need for tears. There's no time for sentimentality.
Your mother said that to your sister while she was having a baby.
Yeah, my mom. She did that. She's like, my mom was hard.
What you crying for? Does it make it feel better?
And she would grit her teeth like, shut up, what you crying for? And I'm like, okay, I guess I need to shut up and stop crying. So even now, when I see people crying, I'm like, what you crying for? Shut up. So I had to like really go back and see what that really is about. So we still on topic, family. We going different places, you know, having different streams of consciousness. But, you know, I saw that, you know, I was able to contrast and compare. And we still have that dynamic today, even with our children, where, you know, I'm not fast to lash out and to try to, you know, spank as much. But, you know, violence is not off the table. They have to believe that it's absolutely possible in order for them to line up, because, you know, raising Hebrews, raising Israelites is different than raising other cultures. I don't care what no other cultures do. The Father told us,
time out, Timmy.
Time out, Timmy ain't gonna work. You can try it. I'm not gonna tell nobody what to do with their children.
We did.
You can try it. You can try it.
It's based on the child.
It's based on a child, but there has to be that understanding that within them, that if timeout don't work, this gonna escalate.
This is my grace.
I'm giving you a chance to correct it, but it can never be a time where they believe that you're not going to follow through. Right. So we don't believe in just making empty threats. If you don't get in there,
rip your head off and kick it across the field.
I'm gonna snatch your arm off and kick you down the stairs. Like, you ain't finna do that. Stop. And they know it.
Like,
they know it.
Mama's talking again.
Drop kick you through the goal post of life.
Right.
Like, man, stop it. Stop
right.
it. So
silly.
But we've learned these things, and we just wanted to share a few of those. Did you have anything else? Because I love that we were able to just cover the fact, because we only had 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. We were able to cover the fact that, you know, what's been told to us about the number of children that we have. We're absolutely convinced that, you know, we need to have larger, stronger families. And then those families need to connect with other families in order for us to have a sense of dominion, so that we can reduce the impact that the dominant society has upon us. That's just, you know.
So that's a good segue point. That's a good segue point, because there are some things that were also positive that were learned. That weren't
absolutely.
Necessarily spoken. And that was, you know, growing up, being very well read, intelligent, presenting yourself well. Mm-hmm. That was something that I saw every day. You know, my mother was just this beautiful woman.
Blessings upon her.
Didn't have to try at all. You know,
full of grace and truth, and
very kind, very intelligent.
She was a woman's woman, feminine, cooperative.
And she, you know, it was just an expectation that we were excellent children.
Right.
And it was because she was an excellent example.
Excellent example.
So she modeled excellence and expected excellence. And anything below that was just totally unacceptable.
Okay.
So, you know, I don't understand when people don't invest that time into their children to produce something better.
Right.
They, Imagina recently said, you know, you don't let your children, you raise your children and you don't let them grow up. Weeds grow up. Yeah, you know, you raise your children, you cultivate, you create this specific environment for them to flourish.
Right.
So when you don't do that, when you have the opportunity, especially, you know, when I see women who stay at home mothers.
Yeah. Come on.
And they don't do anything other than stay at home. You're not, you know, investing into the most valuable commodity that you have.
That's the children.
If you're not making them even better than yourself, and not to say that your children can exceed you, but you know what I mean. You know, you want to make sure you should be self-aware of where your deficits are.
Right. And then try to improve said deficits
on that,
so that you don't transfer that to the children. So we've been very deliberate in trying to learn certain things, develop our mindset so that we can have a certain culture in the home where our children saw us reading. Put the phone down. Get off the damn phone. Let them see you with a book. Let them see you having a conversation, a high-level conversation where you do use, your $5 words. Speak complete sentences to your children. Have your children put on clothes. Like, that's one thing I learned. How you present. Present like you're royalty. Look a certain way. Have a certain level of decorum, etiquette. Don't be so combative with people, because the way that you present is your first method of communication. And with our people, they're going to look at you first.
Oh, yes.
They're going to look at you.
It's hard to get over that. You present raggedy, you stay raggedy for a long time.
You could be saying some heavy stuff, but it's hard to get past.
Yeah, you stay raggedy, for a long time. I don't care if you present every time after that better. Yeah. It takes a long time to erase that first one with us. So, that whole, reading to them, talk to them. My grandmother spent day in, day out with us. Yes. And, I was reading at 2-3 years old. Wasn't even allowed to go to anybody's kindergarten because I read the whole test to them. Yeah. So, the teacher was like, why are you here? Why are you here? So I knew my children had that aptitude and I was going to capitalize on it. I had readers at 2 years old. Absolutely. 2.5 years old. So don't sit up and come on on a forum and ask when your child is going to the first grade, how do you teach them how to read? I believe you're a little late. You late. Because now that, I think, well, none of that, but to each his own. But I just think that that's something that I was taught through just the behavior that I saw and the expectations that were set in my home. And it's not I was also taught as a child that it's not the teacher's responsibility to educate me. My mother showed us that she had a vested interest in us. See, from the Hebraic mindset, children being wealth, that was our retirement plan. That I'm going to take care of my mama. I'm going to take care of my father. That I could not put them in a retirement home. You follow what I mean? That if you invest in those children, they'll turn around and give it right back to you. They'll help you. They'll love you. But if you've been a horrible parent to them, and that is possible, you kicked them out when they were 17, 18, you made them fend for yourself. Don't expect them to now want to take care of you when you haven't deposited anything in them. You've neglected them. Now in your time of need, you done went through your hot girl 30s, your hot boy 40s. You've been knocking down everything with two legs. And then now, as the sun is beginning to set, now you think that you can go back and try to reap what you have not sown. That is a problem. I'm not telling anybody not to do it. All I'm saying is that you're going to have a hard way to go. It's better to make stronger children than to try to repair broken men. That's what we want to do. That's why we focus on family so much. It's really nothing else out there. People talk about doctrine and they go. Let's deal with the concept of assembly. And assemblies were meant to assemble, to produce something, to produce a man, to produce a group consciousness that can move and operate in this symbiotic manner. But as long as you're only tied together through a conversation, oh, you my this, you my ak, you my moray, you my apostle, you my bishop. The thing is, you my pastor. It's a very base level of understanding within a lot of assemblies, and I'm not, by any means trying to condemn anybody for anything that they choose to do. No, you can do it. However, were you gonna? Yeah, let me just finish this. You can, but if you're not assembling and you're not trying to connect families together, see, we cannot be. I'm gonna say this again and again and again. You're not going to get to the level of a nation if you don't if we don't have restorative patriarchy. That is the foundation. Families coming together. If you want to go to assembly, fine, but truly assemble.
Connect families together, because if you don't, it's going to become more sectarian and denominational, where you have each group, they splinter. You know how many groups I've seen splinter in this Israelite awakening, in the Hebrew Israelite tradition? They splinter. I've been a Moray. You were the first lady. I'm just playing. like I've taught. We've had assembly, and you see it just fracture. You see it splinter because you're still going about it from a Greco-Roman mindset.
Well, people get to a point where they get comfortable, and they don't want to go any farther in their understanding. So a lot of
but see, this is the next thing. This is why it's coming out now. Okay, you got the religious, you got the identity. So if you really want to model yourself after the scripture, you're really a Hebrew, you're really an Israelite, you got to line up in patriarchy. There's no other way. There's no other way.
Patriarchs are oppressive. What do you mean?
Maybe they're looking at it from the European lens, but when you look at it from the Hebraic, come again?
Why would that even be oppressive, though? I mean,
well,
it depends. It's all subjective.
It can be. I think that the European, their version of patriarchy is different than ours, and I've gone at length to try to contrast and compare the way that Abraham treated Sarah versus the way that Thomas Jefferson treated his wife. You know what I'm saying? In their patriarchy. We ain't going to let y'all vote. We ain't going to let y'all do nothing. No. We don't oppress our women. We listen to our women. Abraham loved Sarah. I went to that Isaiah 51. Consider your father Abraham. Look unto him and look unto your mother Sarah that bore you. Look at the dynamic of that relationship. It's so rich. It's so powerful. So how Israelites respect and honor their women is just different than the way that the European does with their women. And, I don't even try to speak to them. I only want to speak to my group. I love my group. I want my group to have dominion. And that only comes by restorative patriarchy. And I said this numerous times, that the most revolutionary thing that a man can do in today's society and times is to align his family in the patriarchal structure, the biblical family structure that was given to them by the Most High Yah, who was our tribal deity. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Excuse me.
But that was a little around the bend and back again.
Hey, you get me fired up. You start talking about patriarchy, man.
Okay. It's okay. It's necessary. And I just, I asked or mentioned, being oppressive, because that's all you see.
Yeah.
When you really look at it, especially if you do a Google search, you're going to find every
reason not to do it.
Thing possible, which is crazy, because by definition, it's just the male head figurehead. It's not the woman. And
oftentimes when people don't know what to do, if you don't know the mind of Yah, maybe you can discover the mind of your enemy. Look at what the enemy hates and pushes against and fights. They fight patriarchy. They fight larger families. They fight keeping the Sabbath. They fight keeping the commandments. They fight having faith in the Messiah. They fight these things that are essential to the birth of a nation. And that's why we're trying to highlight it, and we take time out of our day, out of our evening, out of our time together, because I travel, I'm gone a lot, because I'm out. I'm penetrating targets. I'm trying to extract resources, not so I can go out and buy a big body Benz, that S550, or to buy big car. That's not it. It's not it. Elder Murray said, you can keep, if you got $1, 99 cents goes to your family. I only keep 1 cent out the 99. But when you do that, that's the way that you get your family to buy in, because they see, man, look at what my father has done in my father's house. Many, many mansions. Shout out to Shalomiel. Love you so much, man. Blessings and, restoration and healing be upon you. beloved. But anything else, babe? We have 45 minutes. Typically, we keep it under an hour. Did you have anything else that you wanted to share?
But when did you learn that the negative behaviors, when did you learn that they were dysfunctional?
What do you mean?
The things that, we just kind of mentioned, the things that you had kind of believed for so long until you realized, okay, this isn't correct.
Well, I think that's a very, very good question. When I began to look in the scriptures, and I believe that Torah is the gold standard, that everything is weighed against that. I had to look at the way that they viewed reality and the way that I viewed reality, because it was not the intention of the Most High for time and space to affect his sons and his daughters. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean by that?
Tell us a little bit more.
I mean that regardless of what period of time a Hebrew, an Israelite specifically, because there are the Hebrews, an Israelite, a son and a daughter of the covenant, no matter if we're 3,500 years separated from the promise or 100 years, we should live our life in a way that's proof positive that we are said people group. Right. Time should not impact us. I'm not a modern man. I don't think like those that are modern. I don't think like a man that's Western. I don't think like an American. I don't think like a black man. I'm an Israelite indeed. And I worship him, the Father, in spirit and in truth. What's the truth? He needs a body. He needs a man. He needs a family. And he's so big that I cannot house him. He's too big for me. He's too large. He's too majestic. He's too royal. He's too splendiferous for me to accommodate him. So I got to have more of me in the earth so he could use my bloodline. That's when I realized it. That the Father wasn't concerned with individuals. He wants a group. And how that group responded and reacted to him determined whether or not he was pleased or not, and if there were rewards or punishments being levied. So many times growing up in captivity, family, we can function in dysfunction.
Well, that's funny you say that, because the world today will make you think that restoring to the ancient path is dysfunction.
To hell with the world. I'm fired up now.
Saying, they'll make you think that it's dysfunctional if you choose to take your children out of school.
No, that's abuse.
They don't have a social life. But
what do you mean by a social life?
Right.
What does that mean?
I don't know. But to me, it's you end up socializing your children with people who are strangers. And then they admire those strangers more than the things you're trying to instill in them at home.
My.
So, where's the abuse? Because you don't allow your children to dictate or to, just be around people who you wouldn't even say hello to. So that's one thing that is dysfunctional, that they need to be able to do that. They need to be able to, make some decisions and choose
on their own
things that they like to do.
See, I love that you say that. I'm going to read this James chapter 4, and I like to, just anchor it with the word. James 4:4. Ye adulterers and adulteresses. What is an adulterer? Is the problem with being adultery is mixing seed. You've taken another man's wife, his property. He's planted seed there because he's consummated the marriage, and you're planting another seed in the same environment. You will produce a hybrid and bastards. So we want the word of Yah to be pure and unadulterated, not mixed, even in our consciousness. And that's what we're talking about, is that we learned a certain thing. We saw the bad and we saw the good. And the good aligns with Torah because that is the gold standard. And we cannot have it mixed, because if it's mixed, it's adulterated, it's diluted, it's defiled. And we don't want to be defiled. It says, ye adulterers and adulteresses, know ye not that friendship of the world is enmity with Elohim, with God. Enmity is a mutual hatred. If you love the world, I'm not talking about the cosmos. I'm talking about the social order of the day. You said it, that you end up mixing your children with strangers that have strange doctrines. And you know what they're offering? Strange fire.
The thing about the stranger that's tricky is that people think just because you look like me, that you're not a stranger. And that's not the case. It's more about, your mindset and your belief.
Yeah.
And the way you govern yourself. Because you can look just like me and be a whole fool.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't want to have absolutely nothing to do with you.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's a great point, because these things that we're highlighting are things that we got from the world. Mm-hmm. And all of us was exposed to it. You were and I were, but we're trying to repair the breach and not love the world. It says that, know ye not that friendship of the world is enmity with Elohim, or God. Whosoever therefore would be a friend of the world is an enemy of God. You're an enemy of Elohim if you're subscribing to the things that this world has given you. So you, in your own intelligence and research, please consider your ways.
But they all say there's nothing wrong with it. Oh, it's just, it's just, it's not, it don't take all that. You don't have to adhere like that. That's not what it means.
Okay. That's what I say. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Next. All we can do is share. Family, thank y'all. Go ahead, finish it.
Well, children are just too valuable to risk. It only takes a little leaven.
To do what?
Leaven the whole lump.
The whole lump. So be careful what you allow your children to be exposed to through this socialization principle.
Especially early.
Early, yeah.
You have to define, who they are first.
Yeah.
And then once that is, really understood, then you can test them a little bit.
So you mean they don't get to define themselves? Mm-mm. No. Not in Zion.
They should be fully immersed in, home life and things that you want them to value.
Okay.
Otherwise, they'll value the things of the world and look at you like you're crazy, and raise up against you. So it's important. But if you're sitting at home with them, it takes a little bit more than just sitting there with them.
Not just being present. Do something. Be productive. Consider your ways, family. Bless you.
Develop those children.
Please, that is your wealth. That is your posterity. We focus on lineage.
A reflection on you, Mom. Nobody really looks at Dad. They don't look at Dad.
Not for that.
They look at Dad when the lights get turned off. They don't really look at Dad when,
Right. If they acting bad, they need some correction. They look at the father. But if your children, they're behind in their education, their grooming isn't up to par what it needs to be, that's reflect on the mother. Children teeth ain't brushed,
or like
clothes dirty.
Or if somebody comes over to your house and it's not clean, they don't look at your husband. They look at you.
They look at you.
But either way, that was all off topic.
That was all off topic. Quick sidebar, I used to say that people were coming over to the house just because I know you were cleaning from top to bottom.
Oh my gosh. It would be like dusting baseboards and white gloves. Because, that's another thing I was taught growing up. Right. Don't let nobody come in your house if it's not.
Baby, so-and-so and so-and-so is coming over. Baby, damn, why didn't you tell me?
Just gotta go.
And then it'll be,
gotta do all kinds of stuff.
It'll be like 10 o'clock. Well, where they at?
All right. Whatever.
All right, family. Love y'all. Blessings to your house. May the Most High continue to enrich you. Bless you. We pray that we share something valuable from the Go Lightly perspective. I'm your brother Dawid. This is my Isha, my helpmeet, my wife, Hokma.
What?
All right, y'all. Shalom, shalom. Let's get some little outro music.
Shalom, shalom, everyone.
Shalom. We out. That was good. I think we
got a little off. We went all over.
We got off where?
Just a little bit.
Well, when I start preaching.
Just a little.
You got me excited about what's the difference in patriarchy? Like, hey, we different.
You read that stuff. Those people are, and you can only find the negative stuff. There's nothing positive.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later, though. What was there?